My brother kicked me out, but his fiancée just looked him in the eyes and said, "You have no idea who she really is." Sophie sat alone at the small wooden desk in the corner of her apartment, fingers flying over the keyboard as she tweaked the last lines of code. The glow of her laptop illuminated a face that was both determined and tired. She had spent months perfecting this program, her secret passion, the thing she believed could prove to the world that she belonged. But in the daylight hours, she always felt invisible, the dutiful sister overshadowed by her brother's loud success. From childhood, she'd watched Josh receive praise while her achievements went unnoticed. Tonight, however, would be different, though she couldn't yet see how. She remembered the small kitchen table where their parents encouraged Josh to speak about his achievements. They bragged to neighbors about how bright their son was, while Sophie's accomplishments were dismissed as quietly as they had happened. When she graduated at the top of her computer science program, her father ruffled her hair and said, "You're good, kiddo, but your brother's got that gift with people." At the time, her heart had clenched, but she simply nodded and returned to her room, returning to her code. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight was the company launch. Josh's tech startup was unveiling the newest version of the app Sophie had built from scratch. It had skyrocketed his career. Investors lined up, headlines praised his vision, while Sophie's role remained a hushed secret. She had agreed to this arrangement because she believed in family, because she trusted her brother. Recognition wasn't everything, so she'd told herself. But as she slipped into a simple black dress and stared at herself in the mirror, she felt a pang of anxiety that she could no longer ignore. Arriving at the chic loft space downtown, Sophie's stomach fluttered. The room buzzed with congratulations, drinks in hand, laughter echoing off exposed brick walls. Polite smiles greeted her as she weaved through clusters of guests. Behind the bar, she spotted Josh holding court, laughing, gesturing, basking in admiration. She no longer recognized the boy who used to tease her gently about her glasses. He was a different person now, confident, almost arrogant. Taking a deep breath, Sophie approached, clutching her purse and stepping toward the crowd. She barely had time to raise a glass when Josh turned, paused, and his smile vanished. In an instant, the lively chatter dulled. "Oh, look who came crawling out of her cave," he said, loud enough for nearby guests to snicker. "What are you doing here, Sophie? Didn't you have something better to do? Or do you just want to watch me take the credit for your work?" Gasps fluttered through the crowd. Sophie's throat closed, but she managed to stay standing. Crimson heat rose in her cheeks as she bit her lip and stepped back. Smartphones tilted in her direction, waiting for the next explosive moment. Her heart pounded, fists clenched at her sides. She had no response. She could only think that this was the moment she had dreaded since childhood, being shamed in public for simply existing. Just then, a quiet voice pierced the tension. Claire, Josh's fiancée, stepped forward with a calm intensity that belied the room's suddenly tense hush. She placed a gentle hand on his arm, pulling him close. "You have no idea who she really is," Claire said softly but firmly. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. The room shifted, people exchanged puzzled glances. Josh's smirk faltered, and a flicker of confusion passed through his eyes. Sophie found herself rooted to the spot, heart hammering, because for the first time someone had acknowledged her. Claire's steady gaze met hers. In that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between the two of them. Sophie's secret would no longer stay buried. She felt both fear and relief wash over her. Taking a shaky breath, she whispered, "Thank you," then turned and walked toward the exit, leaving a silent storm behind her. As the door clicked shut, Sophie knew her life had shifted irrevocably. Her secret was no longer hers alone, and a new path lay before her. Sophie pressed her hand against the cool brick wall outside the loft, heart hammering. Inside, the muffled hum of celebration flitted through the glass doors. Claire stepped forward, gently touching Sophie's arm. "Sophie, please, hear me out." Sophie's voice cracked. "Why, Claire? You know my brother. He's ruthless. I don't want more trouble. Claire searched Sophie's face, eyes bright even beneath exhaustion. Because I know the truth. Long before I met Josh, I found your code buried in developer forums. It was ingenious. When I saw his app, I recognized it immediately. Sophie shook her head, tears brimming. I never wanted credit. I just wanted to build something, even if only to prove I was more than a shadow. Claire's tone softened. He stole your ideas. He let the world believe he was the genius. He belittled you tonight. A gentle wind rustled the fallen leaves at their feet. But I did my research. Before I agreed to marry Josh, I knew who you were. Sophie's heart raced. Then why help me? My life is a jumble of lines and late nights. I'm not built for boardrooms or applause. Claire cupped Sophie's cheek. You're not built for hiding either. You're brilliant. I want to help you build your own project without Josh. Somewhere your name stands on its own. Tears pricked Sophie's eyes. Why? If you expose him, he'll hate you. Claire pulled her closer. Sometimes doing right means sacrificing what's easy. I love Josh, but I love the truth more. You deserve better. Sophie exhaled, uncertainty and hope battling within her. Slowly, she nodded. Okay, I'll do it, but I don't know where to start. The next morning felt surreal as Sophie arrived at Claire's sleek apartment turned workspace. Whiteboards filled with diagrams and investor notes lined the floor-to-ceiling windows. Claire motioned to a large table cluttered with laptops and coffee cups. This is our war room. First, we rebuild the app under your name and pitch to investors who value transparency. Over steaming mugs, Sophie dove into her own code, reworking features she'd once laid aside when Josh took credit. Claire attended discreet networking events, introducing Sophie's work to angel investors who cared about ethics. At one such meeting, a lean, kind-eyed man slipped her his business card. Your vision for user privacy is compelling. Let's talk numbers. Sophie felt her pulse quicken. This was the recognition she'd dreamed of. Meanwhile, Josh noticed subtle changes, clause revisions in partnership agreements he didn't recall signing, whispers of a new rival emerging out of nowhere. His pride recoiled, and he spent late nights pacing the office, furious at Claire for diverting resources. One evening, Claire sent Sophie a text. Tomorrow's demo is crucial. Be ready. As dusk fell, Sophie arrived at a high-rise conference room with a panoramic city view. Investors filled sleek chairs, the air humming with expectation. Claire introduced Sophie as the mind behind the original code. Sophie stepped forward, voice steady despite trembling. Slide after slide displayed features she had crafted, privacy settings, encrypted data flows, intuitive interfaces. Faces shifted from polite interest to genuine wonder. Whispers of, "She did this," floated around. At the back of the room, Sophie saw Josh's silhouette, arms crossed, jaws clenched. He had followed Claire to uncover the truth. When Sophie finished, applause erupted. Investors lined up, extending cards and congratulations. Claire joined her on the stage, leaning in to whisper, "You're amazing." Sophie let the applause wash over her. But afterward, Josh intercepted her in the hallway. His voice was low but venomous. "You think you can just waltz in and steal my spotlight?" Sophie steadied herself. "I'm not stealing. I'm claiming what's mine." His eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." He turned and left, casting a long shadow as he went. That night, Sophie received a cryptic text. "We're watching you. Don't trust anyone." Her breath caught. Someone else had noticed her rise and had other plans. She shut her laptop with trembling fingers, resolved that tomorrow she would face whatever came. For the first time, Sophie felt both powerful and vulnerable. She drifted to sleep imagining the path ahead, uncertain but alive. The morning sun streamed into Sophie's apartment, but she barely noticed its warmth. Her mind raced as she sipped cold coffee. The previous night's triumph haunted her. Investors applauding, Josh's furious face, Claire's warning. She pressed her palm on her desk and stared at her laptop, knowing her work awaited revision. Claire soon appeared, tired but resolute. "Early meeting. They want updates." Sophie nodded and launched her code editor, diving into updates. Each line she typed felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. She remembered handing her project to Josh, trusting him to honor her work. He had replaced her name with his. She had stayed silent until now. Hours later, Sophie and Claire drafted a proposal spotlighting Sophie's vision: enhanced security protocols, intuitive interfaces, and unwavering transparency. They sent it to investors who valued ethical technology. Responses came quickly. One emailed, "We're intrigued by your emphasis on user privacy. Let's talk." That afternoon, Sophie checked her phone. A news alert blared. Tech Goliath Inc. suffers major data breach, shares plummet. She traced the breach to a vulnerability she had once patched, before Josh discarded her fixes. Claire arrived, eyes narrowed. "He ignored your security measures, and now he's paying. People will suspect sabotage." Sophie's stomach churned. She hadn't intended to harm her brother, yet his empire was collapsing. Late that night, she received Josh's text. "We need to talk. Now." She let it go unanswered and refocused on her proposal. The next morning, Sophie entered a glass-walled boardroom filled with investors. Her palms itched, but her voice rang clear as she presented her renewed project. She described nights hunched over code, sacrificed weekends perfecting algorithms. She revealed the blueprint for a secure, user-led platform backed by transparency. The investors listened, pens poised. When she finished, several voiced enthusiastic support. One said, "This is genuine. We back innovators." Behind them, Claire's approving smile steadied Sophie's nerves. They exited to a swarm of handshake offers. But as they reached the lobby, Claire's face turned grave. "Josh is briefing the press. He's accusing you of sabotaging his company." Sophie felt her chest tighten. "He'll make me look like a criminal." Claire placed a hand on Sophie's shoulder. "Stay calm. We have evidence to prove your innocence and his deceit, but you must be ready for battle." After the meeting, Sophie found a quiet corner at a nearby cafe. She sipped tea, rereading emails from an elder developer named Marcus, a mentor she'd once contacted. He had written, "Believe in yourself. The code is your voice." Marcus's words had been a lifeline when she doubted her worth. Now they guided her forward. She typed back, explaining the crisis and outlining her plans. His reply came quickly. "I have your back. Let me know what I can do." That reminder of solidarity eased some of her fear and steeled her resolve. Back at her apartment, she organized digital folders, evidence of her original designs, documented code versions, and old emails proving her role. Each file felt like a fragment of her identity reclaimed. She thought of Claire, her unexpected ally, and of investors who saw her talent. Her pulse quickened as she prepared a public statement to refute Josh's accusations. That night, Sophie drafted a letter to the press, laying out the chronology of events: how she built the initial code, how Josh claimed it, how she released her updated version. She wrote late into the night, tears blurring her vision at times. When she finally hit send, she felt a mix of terror and relief. The world now knew her truth. Before dawn, her phone buzzed with supportive messages from former classmates, digital rights advocates, even strangers praising her courage. Yet, as her inbox overflowed, she spotted a message from an anonymous address. "Stop now or face consequences." Her breath caught. Someone else was watching her. Sophie exhaled, closing her eyes. She thought of the shy girl who once believed she belonged in shadows. That girl was gone. Rising, she walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. Her heart pounded with a fierce determination. She whispered, "I'm not afraid," and turned away, ready to face whatever came next. Weeks passed as Sophie immersed herself in refining her platform. Her days blurred into lines of code, nights into strategy sessions with Claire. For the first time, Sophie felt valued. Investors kept their promise, funds arrived, and her vision took shape. One afternoon, news flashed. Tech Goliath Inc. announces mass layoffs after data breach. Sophie felt a pang of guilt. She hadn't meant to destroy her brother's company, but he had ignored her security patches. Claire found her on a rooftop overlooking the city. "He refused your help," Claire said softly. "This is the consequence." Sophie rubbed her temples. "I never wanted him to suffer. It's hard to celebrate when it feels like he's falling." Claire squeezed her hand. "Justice and mercy aren't the same. He chose pride over your expertise." The next morning, Sophie entered a boardroom filled with investors. She began her presentation on updates, secure features, privacy protocols. Halfway through, a partner interjected, voice tight. "We've just received a cease and desist from Tech Goliath. They're suing for intellectual property theft." Sophie froze, fingers clenched. "He's retaliating," she whispered. Claire stood firm. "We have documentation. He can't win." Afterward, Sophie returned to her apartment and compiled evidence. Original code files, dated emails, timestamps. Each document represented nights of unacknowledged work. She arranged them into a digital dossier. Her heart pounded as she realized this would be a legal battle. She sent the packet to Claire. "Our defense starts here." Determined, Sophie drafted an open letter to Tech Goliath's customers, explaining her side. The original code belonged to her, she had proof, and she was building a platform that valued users over profit. She posted it on social media and tech forums. Within hours, comments poured in. "How could he do that? She's brave. This is a wake-up call about workplace ethics." The tide of public opinion shifted, putting pressure on Josh's legal team. Meanwhile, investors observed the reaction. Some doubled down, impressed by Sophie's transparency and courage. Others hesitated, concerned about litigation. Claire spent nights fielding calls, soothing doubts, and reassuring partners that Sophie's integrity would prevail. Sophie, meanwhile, fine-tuned her platform, each click reminding her of why she had embarked on this journey. One morning, her phone pinged with a message from Marcus. "I connected with a digital rights group. They can offer pro bono legal aid." Relief flooded her. She replied, "Thank you." The network she had quietly built now felt like a shield. That night, under dim kitchen lights, Sophie received a text from a tech journalist. "Interested in interviewing you on camera. Your story is going mainstream." Public scrutiny terrified her, but she knew silence meant Josh's narrative would dominate. She agreed. The next evening, under bright studio lights, Sophie recounted her journey calmly. She described how her code formed the backbone of Josh's company, how she trusted her brother, and how his arrogance led to his downfall. Her voice remained steady, every word a declaration of self-ownership. When the segment aired, views exploded online. Supportive comments flooded in. Josh's company faced mounting backlash. Late that night, Sophie returned home to find Josh waiting on her doorstep. He looked hollow, regret lacing his eyes. "Sophie," he whispered. She swallowed, steeling herself. "I'm sorry. You were always the one who made this work. I was too proud to admit it. Please, let's find a way forward." Sophie stared at him, torn between the shy sister he once protected and the woman who had reclaimed her worth. She opened the door a crack. "I'm not your shadow anymore. If there's a way forward, it's on my terms." Josh nodded, tears glinting. "I understand." She closed the door softly, leaning against it. She turned to the window and looked out at the city skyline. The nightlights shimmered like possibilities. She whispered, "I'm free now," and turned away, ready to shape her own future. Days passed as stacks of legal documents piled on Sophie's desk. Claire and Sophie met each morning in the loft office, plotting comprehensive responses, drafting detailed rebuttals, collaborating with digital rights advocates. The lawsuit from Josh's company stretched like a dark cloud overhead, but each investor's reaffirmation kept Sophie buoyed. At last, she felt the shift. From an invisible sister to a woman people looked to for innovation. Late one evening, Claire arrived abruptly, face anxious. Sophie glanced up from her laptop. "What's wrong?" Claire paced between whiteboards and workstations, voice tight. "I need to be honest with you." Sophie braced herself. "Go on." Claire hesitated, then exhaled. "My purpose wasn't only to help you. I used your work to hurt Josh, to make him feel what you felt, humiliation and betrayal." Sophie's pulse skipped. "You lied to me." Claire's eyes filled. "I believed that revenge would be justice. Watching him crumble made me feel complete, but I never stopped to think how deeply it would hurt you." Sophie swallowed hard, furious tears pooling. "Everything I've built felt real. But if you exploited my work for gamesmanship, I can't trust you." Claire bowed her head, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I never meant to break your trust. I thought it would make things right." Sophie's anger simmered. "I need a partner built on honesty." Claire nodded, tears falling. "I promise I'll be truthful from now on." Sophie rose, voice cold but steady. "That's the least you can do." The next morning, Sophie arrived at the loft with a sense of trepidation. Moments later, Josh appeared, standing at the doorway in rumpled slacks. Sophie's pulse hammered as he stepped inside, eyes hollow from guilt. "Sophie," he said, voice breaking, "I know what Claire told you." She folded her arms. "You conspired against me." His shoulders sagged. "I wish I could undo it all. I was so blinded by pride that I refused your help. I thought I had to show the world I was the genius." He took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry." Sophie studied him, memories of his childhood teasing, flickering through her mind. She asked, "How do I know you've actually changed?" He drew a crumpled folder from his pocket. "I've instructed my lawyer to drop the lawsuit. And publicly, your name appears on every mention of my company's app moving forward." Sophie's throat tightened. "That's the start." He met her gaze, shame in his eyes. "Actions speak louder than words. I'll prove it." He turned and left, leaving Sophie both relieved and wary. She pressed a hand to her heart, feeling the tension ebb and surge. She whispered, "I still love him," though her voice trembled. Hours later, Claire returned to the loft, tears glinting in her eyes. "Did he make good on it?" Sophie nodded, exhaustion mingling with cautious hope. "He did. Lawsuit is withdrawn, and I get public credit." Claire exhaled, relief flooding her. She moved closer, voice low. "I've been ashamed. I manipulated everything." Sophie folded her arms, gaze unwavering. "I forgive you, but know that trust is earned, not assumed." Claire's tear-streaked face nodded. "I will prove it." That afternoon, Sophie drafted a heartfelt public letter to accompany Josh's announcement. She recounted her journey, the late nights coding in a tiny kitchen, the moment she handed her work to Josh in good faith, and the betrayal she endured. She published it on her blog and shared it across social media. Within hours, messages poured in, supportive notes from former classmates, TED Talks fans praising her bravery, and digital rights activists vowing solidarity. Sophie read comment after comment. "She's fearless," wrote one user. "This is what real innovation looks like," wrote another. Her chest warmed at their words. She realized her voice finally carried weight. That evening, Sophie met Marcus under the glow of street lamps outside a quiet cafe. Over cups of chamomile tea, he slid a small envelope across the table. "A contribution from friends who believe in you," he said kindly. Inside were checks from sympathetic donors wanting to support her initiative. Sophie's eyes stung. "Thank you." Marcus studied her thoughtfully. "You've come far," he said. "Now you get to choose your own path." Sophie exhaled, memories stirring, her childhood fears, the kitchen table where her parents praised Josh, the silent teenager who believed her only place was behind a screen. "I'm not that girl anymore," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "Good. Your next chapter starts now." Sophie sipped her tea, gaze drifting to the city skyline beyond the cafe window. Each light was a promise of possibility. She whispered, "I'm no longer invisible." A breeze carried her words, and for the first time, she believed them. A soft rain fell as Sophie approached the loft the next morning. Under the dull glow of street lamps, each puddle mirrored her reflection, steady, determined, and no longer frozen in fear. She carried the final draft of her launch proposal, a secure, intuitive platform that would bear her name and values. Today was the day investors saw her vision fully realized. Inside, Claire already reviewed documents with the core team. A cluster of monitors displayed data metrics, user testing feedback, beta release signups, and sponsor endorsements. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Sophie's laptop slid into place as she took a steadying breath. At exactly 10 o'clock, the small conference room filled with eager faces, existing investors, digital rights lawyers, and a few journalists invited to witness the unveiling. Josh's presence had been requested but unconfirmed. Sophie felt her pulse tighten when she glimpsed his silhouette in the hallway, but then he slipped away, choosing to watch from the sidelines. She pressed her shoulders back, determined not to crumble. Claire stood beside her at the head of the table. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "Today, you'll see the future of this technology and meet the mind behind it." She gestured to Sophie, whose heart pounded as she rose. Sophie's voice rang steady. This platform was built from a vision of user agency, where privacy isn't an afterthought, where data is protected at every stage, and where ethical innovation leads to social good. She tapped her laptop and the screen, shifted to a dynamic dashboard. "Here, you'll see how our encryption model secures user information. We've integrated a blockchain-based ledger for transparency." She clicked to the next slide. "And here is our intuitive interface, designed through months of user testing. It anticipates needs without compromising security." Hands rose, questions volleyed. How do you handle scalability? What about AI-driven insights? Sophie answered each with technical precision. Her tone was conversational, almost warm, a far cry from the shy kid who hid behind a screen. She described her journey through code, late nights when only dim desk lamps kept her company, the moment she handed her work to a brother who dismissed her name, and the heartbreak that followed. She spoke of Claire's support and Marcus's encouragement. By the time she finished, even the most skeptical investor leaned forward, eyes bright. A hush fell, then applause rippled through the room. Afterward, investors clustered around to shake her hand. One executive said, "We want to lead the seed round for your venture. Your integrity and innovation are rare." Another slipped her a note, "Call me. We have a pilot opportunity." Sophie felt tears prick her eyes. Emotions she didn't know she had flared: joy, relief, validation. Claire draped an arm around her, whispering, "You did it." Sophie nodded, voice thick. "We did it." Outside the loft, Sophie stepped onto the sidewalk, fresh rain misting her cheeks. She inhaled deeply, then noticed Josh standing beneath an awning. His face was pale, regretful. He approached, stepping into the soft glow of a street lamp. "Sophie," he began, voice low, "I watched. I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry for everything." His eyes glistened. Sophie studied him, recalling simpler times. Shared laughter over cereal, protective arms when she skinned her knee. The boy he had been was buried beneath layers of ego, but a spark of that brother remained. She took a shaky breath. "Thank you, but I can't go back to being your shadow." He nodded, chin trembling. "I understand. If you ever need anything, no strings attached, call me." Sophie's chest warmed. "I'll remember that." He offered a sad smile and turned away. Sophie watched him go, heartbeat echoing. Claire joined her, arms wrapped in a light jacket. Ready to celebrate? Sophie nodded. But first, I want to thank Marcus. She lifted her phone and typed a quick text. Thank you for everything. Let's meet soon. As she sent it, she felt a surge of gratitude for everyone who had believed in her when she doubted herself. Together, Sophie and Claire walked toward a nearby cafe, lights reflecting off wet pavement. The air smelled of possibility. Sophie whispered, "I'm not invisible," and pressed her hand to her heart. That night, alone in her apartment, Sophie opened a final email from a new investor. "We want to scale your platform globally. Let's talk." She exhaled, allowing relief and excitement to wash through her. Lifting her gaze to the rain-streaked window, she pictured the future. A platform carrying her name, protecting user privacy, and standing as a testament to resilience. In the quiet, she whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." And though she didn't know what trials awaited, she felt ready. The shy girl who once hid in shadows was gone. Sophie Turner, innovator, stood in the glow of her own light.